Walter Weeks. You've seen the title of the video, you've seen the thumbnail, you know what I'm going to speak about. As the name suggests, Walter is very, very weak. His name should be Walter the Weak. As somebody who runs a self-improvement podcast, I think this is their podcast. Fresh and Fit is the biggest podcast for men's self-improvement in the world, right? And they've been around for since COVID happened, 2020 up until now, 2025. Obviously they became very, very famous in 2022 when a certain bald guy with a Bugatti, he became famous. And throughout all this time, what I've seen is that there's a lot of these guys who are popping up on the internet, and they're talking about masculinity and how men should be, how they should behave, how they should focus on themselves, how they should deal with the people in their lives, especially the women. Now if you look at Fresh and Fit, the stark contrast between both Fresh and his partner Myron, which is he's the fitter one, so obviously fit, right? There is such a huge contrast in both these guys. And here is why Walter is the prime example of why money cannot unlame you, right? Walter is lame through and through. Think about this. Back in the day, when there were the hunter-gatherer times, masculinity was what? It was you had to be a protector, you had to be a provider, you had to be physically very, very capable in order to hunt animals, fight for your tribe, protect your children and your women, and even your when you had to fight in your tribes, you had to protect your brothers, right? The rawest form of masculinity is what? Your physical capability, right? Then there is obviously your mental strength, your mental fortitude, your emotional intelligence. You had to handle high levels of stress. You had to go through deep trauma because you had to see men your age die, right? Men who were your friends die in front of your eyes, and you still had to keep fighting on. There was a lot of mental resilience. There was a lot of physical resilience, because you had to sometimes, as a young kid, you had to see your father try and defend you and then die, right? You had to see probably your resources being snatched away from you. You had to live in very extreme poverty. You didn't have access to the best resources and all, and you had to work your way up in order to earn those, right? You had to work hard in order to earn a certain ranking, right? So you had to have extreme physical capability so that you could acquire resources, and you had to have extreme mental resilience in order to be stoic in tough times. And when you were physically very capable and mentally very capable, you had the best resources, you had access to the most women, you had the most children, and all of this tied into you leaving your legacy behind, which was your children and your families, right, and your offspring. And the other lesser males that died, they were not as privileged as to they weren't able to pass on their genes. Now if this was primal times, all of that the detail that I just went to, if these were primal times, Fresh would be somebody who would be dead like that, right? Because Fresh is somebody who is since in modern times we do not have to be physically as aggressive, we do not have to be mentally as resilient. We can all turn on our camera, as I am doing right now, and we can post a video, and then we can have a bunch of views and make a bunch of money, right? We can do this through this. We don't really have to go into the outside world and meet a lot of people. Fresh's case, this is why so much comfort and masculinity as a whole, when one thing led to the next and everything was interconnected, now it's all scattered. People can make money without being physically fit. People can be physically fit without having the resources. People can cheat their way into being very, very resourceful and not acquire a strong body, or they can cheat their way into having a very strong body or a very physically looking strong body, aka steroids, right? And they can cheat evolution and cheat their own physical capabilities and cheat their own bodies and find the easy way out into reaching the top. Now Fresh is somebody who obviously the guy, when he came from Barbados and he came to America, he had his own fair share of struggles. But what it comes down to is that despite all of those struggles, the kind of evolution that he should have had, he's not had that. Why? Because he was somebody who was lame through and through, Yes, he says he's a great networker, but there are certain things, certain attributes that the guy did not acquire. And this is why, he becomes such a bad example for the people who want to follow him. And this is why people should not follow him. People should follow Myron on the other hand, because Myron's a genius. I mean, like, he's not right 100% of the times, obviously. I'm not saying that 100% of what Myron does is right. But it's just that he is a far better example to follow as compared to Walter, right? AKA Fresh. Fresh isn't physically the most capable, although he said he would go into the gym. Fresh still, after all these years, stutters. I don't think he's put in any, effort into finding a therapist and trying to be more eloquent and trying to be more concise and trying to be more articulate and trying to be more, fluent with the way he speaks, because he's still fresh. Fresh still stutters a lot, right? He still stutters a lot. Like the average 10-year-old can speak better than him. I am speaking better than him. Think about this. Shout to you. And this is all he does. This is all he does. Whereas if you see Myron goes on and on and on. Myron speaks for like 99% of the show, and all Fresh contributes with is, let's go. So ladies, let's start with your age, your name. For example, your body count. The fuck, Fresh? What? Or when he says shit like, think about this. As a man, for example, shout to you, bro. The fuck? There's a whole bunch of YouTube channels who shit on Fresh. And there are so many instances of callers calling into the show and shitting on Fresh. Guess what happens? The guy says nothing. The guy does nothing to back himself up. And Myron has to step in. And I think if you're like smart enough and you've been like, even if you haven't been like, paying for the show and like trying to watch it like, very, very consistently, the clips that you can like, see on the internet, they're evident enough that Myron is getting sick of this guy. Obviously, like in recent times, the kind of history that Fresh has had with the, the kind of things that he is being exposed for, Fresh is not the best example to follow. They are further proof that Fresh is a very, very bad example to follow for anybody, right? To follow for anybody. I mean, the best example would be when he was arguing with Sneeko. Such obvious points that Sneeko was making that, you don't need to, Fresh was stating the obvious basically. Fresh just went on about like, Fresh started saying, these platforms have agendas. And if you don't follow the platform, you're out. And he says, Sneeko says, yes, I know, but like, you still have to, stand up for the right thing, say the right thing, and, not back down, and, stand for what you believe in. And not everybody has to tell the truth, but the ones who do decide to tell the truth should tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so that they are not misguiding their audience. Fresh was trying to find something to argue about because he just is so insecure of Sneeko. This is unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. Fresh wanted something to be mad about, so Fresh started talking out his ass. And in this day and age, especially with like, the internet and everything, and people who like, you're so quick to get exposed. I don't know why Fresh, like in his right mind, and this is how he's not that smart. I don't know how Fresh in his right mind just thought that, what, I know that, the kind of lifestyle that I live, I will be exposed like this. But let me just go out and be a dumb ninja. Let me just like, in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are watching me right now and who are going to keep watching me, through the endless fabric of time, because any and everything that he puts on the internet lives forever, right? I don't know why he thought that he could just go out with the kind of lifestyle that he lives and the kind of history that he has and the kind of skills, speaking skills that he has, networking, right? I don't know why he thought he could like, mess with Sneeko like that. In recent times, there's been this thing where, like a lot of people call him Goomba, the ugly Goomba. This is how you know that he's a very, very bad example to follow. So Fresh, if you want my message to like, the younger audience, this is something that like, I'm not just saying this to any and everybody. I am also saying this to myself because I like, I used to like their show and all. If you have influences like Fresh in your life, or if you have contact with, or like you're just like having a parasocial relationship with these people, you're just watching them on the internet and trying to learn from them, you need to be smarter with the heroes, or like with the examples and the people that you think of following. You cannot have any and everybody that you look at and think, hey, yaar, you know what, this guy seems good, this guy is rich, this guy lives the kind of lifestyle that I want to live, so let me just start following him. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do the right thing, follow the right person, and be very careful with who you let influence you, right? You can't have any and everything and any and everybody influence the way you think and the way you speak. So many people are just dumb, blind fans of Fresh. And this is surprising. Like, he's obviously not the best example. People should, on the other hand, you know what they should do? They should exercise discernment, and when they watch Fresh, they should listen to what he says or observe the way he moves about, and not like, immediately develop a liking towards him. Watch a bit, like just don't watch like 30-second clips of his. Try and watch the full episode. Try and watch, like the kind of value that he brings, which is very less. And then decide for yourself. I know for a fact, eventually everybody is going to come to the same conclusion. He is not the best example to follow. I hope people do better.